You know what they say, the trends always come back, for the good or the bad. But with food, the traditional old world is always in style. Like when you visit your local baker and you get the freshest loaf of bread.
Love that. Or your local butcher and get the finest cuts of meat.
So today on Between the Eats,
we're visiting Strip District Meats.
So here we are at Strip District Meats in Pittsburgh's historic market district. You can get everything from steaks to alligator.
You also can get alpaca and ostrich, but you also get your classic cuts. Like today, we're gonna get beautiful beef short ribs and a special surprise for our ragu.
Sounds great, let's go.
So what we're gonna do is a long braise. What would you suggest?
I would suggest an English cut. The slower and longer that you cook them, the better they will be.
I'm so excited about
Is
this.
this our secret ingredient for the ragu?
It is.
Looks great.
But before we get to the ragu, let's start with our short ribs.
Yes, so it's a bourbon nut braised short rib.
That it
It
is.
sounds amazing. So tell me about the braise. What are we gonna do?
So what the braise is a long process of cooking tough meats down
Okay.
so that it becomes tender and it remains juicy. And a braise is simply roasting a chunk of meat in the oven in liquid. So that's
Okay,
what we're gonna do.
Sounds great. So I should salt and pepper this probably?
Salt and pepper those
Okay.
very well. This is where you're gonna get your seasoning. And I'm just heating a pan,
Okay. Oil.
oil.
That's good. So we're just gonna brown them.
Yep. We're gonna sear them, get a nice big sear on it, deep sear, so that it really pulls those flavors. It's called the Maillard effect, as I often say on the
Okay.
show. And what that does is really create a really deep flavor on your meat.
Great.
So you just wanna get your meat in
Okay.
to a nice pan and just get it searing very well. So I think we're ready. See, this is
Okay.
what you're looking for, this nice caramelization on the meat.
Yes. It looks really good. So what else do you like to braise?
Really,
Use this method.
Yeah, the braising method is for any tough cut of meat that has a lot of connective tissue.
Okay.
And what that does is that really breaks that connective tissue down so that the meat is nice and tender. So
Okay.
like a roast or brisket or a pork shoulder,
Yes.
anything like that. You can even braise a flank steak so it just falls apart. We're gonna move them into a braising pan. Now they're not cooked here at all. This process is gonna take
Just browning.
this, just browning it, giving it some color, giving it some flavor.
Okay.
The process itself, the braising process, is going to take 3 to 4 hours.
Okay. Now we're gonna add our flavors, right?
Right, and this is where all the liquid comes, the aromatics, the liquids, everything that we're gonna use.
Okay.
So this recipe starts with beef stock.
Okay.
Beef ribs, beef stock. This is just a quarter beef stock. And I'm gonna put the bourbon in, whatever bourbon you'd like to use. And then we're doing soy sauce. We get our peanut butter. Can you put that in for me? Perfect.
Just in the liquid?
Yeah,
'Cause
and
it's all gonna melt when
it's
it
gonna
heats
melt
up.
as it cooks, exactly.
Yeah.
And I will get
Perfect.
the tomato paste. The tomato paste just adds richness to your braising liquid.
Yes. I like to add paste a lot just for that reason. It's like a little trick.
Right,
You know?
and even for your Thanksgiving gravy,
Yes.
a lot of people don't realize it, but you can add a little tomato
Tomato
paste.
paste, yes. It's like a little secret ingredient.
Right.
I like this peanut butter spoon.
Go for it, why not? All right, then we have our other aromatics. I'm using rosemary. I'm doing some carrots, right?
Okay.
And just like always, it's braising. You want big chunky things. You don't want to cut it down too much because it needs to last over a 3-hour cook.
Yes.
So we're gonna put a couple cloves of garlic in.
Okay.
And your favorite thing that I always do, roots, skin and all.
Yep.
The onion goes in. And how about just one bay leaf just to finish it off?
Perfect.
Now, this sauce that you see here, this liquid, once it braises down for 3 hours, it's really gonna get really kind of thick.
Yes.
And all the bone marrow out of the ribs are gonna come out and infuse into it, and you're gonna get a really nice thick sauce. Just from
Delicious.
this.
Yes.
So this will go into the oven
Perfect.
for 3 hours.
Okay. So the secret ingredient is
Bum, 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 bum. Goat.
goat. What?
Yes, goat. Have you ever eaten goat before?
I have actually.
Yeah,
In
it's-
exactly what we're making, which is one of the most popular things, the ragu.
The
That's
ragu.
when I've had it.
All right, well, I fell in love with goats when I lived out west.
Okay.
And there's a Mexican dish called birra, and it's a braised goat dish. And for people that might be like squeamish and thinking goat, it has a lot of a flavor similar to lamb,
Okay.
just more mild. So
Perfect.
we're gonna sear this off,
Okay.
just like we did the short ribs, right?
Okay, so salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper away. You want to do, don't be scared because this is the flavor for your meat,
It's
right?
not a salty meat,
Right, exactly.
so you have to add the flavor.
Then we're gonna add a little oil to our pan.
Okay.
Just the whole searing process over again. Some people like to utilize flour for their sear, and what that really will help do in the end is thicken the sauce.
Yes.
With the flour.
Why are we not doing that? Because we have our sauce.
Well, you don't have to. This is a tomato sauce.
Yep.
So you're gonna thicken it with time.
Yes.
The same as the braising. Technically, that gets thickened with time.
Okay.
It cooks down.
I mean, you can really make a ragu out of anything.
Well, ragu, the definition of a ragu is a braised meat sauce.
Yes.
So it's a sauce that takes these tough cuts of meat and you braise the meat within the sauce
Yes.
to instill that flavor throughout it.
Yes.
And that is what a ragu is. So yeah, if you want to do beef, if you want to do goat, as
Yep.
we're doing, elk, venison,
Yeah.
chicken,
Yeah.
whatever you want to do.
And I
Pork.
feel like the super cool thing about our butcher is that they actually have all these exotic cuts of meat. So that's why it's so great to have a relationship like with Brad, because you go there to get your short ribs, but then he's like, what are you making? Oh yeah, I want to make a ragu. Here, let me give you something really good to make your ragu.
They always
So,
have good suggestions. for
great
that.
suggestions.
So now that it's
Yeah.
seared up, we're gonna add our aromatics,
Okay.
cinnamon, thyme, bay leaves. And we're gonna, the first braise
Okay.
is gonna be in milk
Okay, wait, why'd you say first braise? What's that mean?
because we're gonna have to simmer this after this braises in the milk and the meat.
Braise again.
It will simmer it on the stovetop in the rest of the liquid
Okay.
to cook it down.
So sometimes when we add milk, it's to like take the pungent flavor out. Does goat have a gamey, pungent kind of flavor that you need to pull out?
There is a gaminess to goat, but
Okay.
it is actually a more mild flavor. And but yes, that's what the milk does, is it lessens that gaminess.
So we're just gonna put it in the milk and cook it for how long?
About an hour in the milk at 325 degrees in your oven.
Great.
And what else milk does is tenderizes the meat. So it's going to help you tenderize the meat, and it's going to pull some of that gaminess out.
In the oven. Could you leave it on the burner?
No, you need to
No.
put it in the oven
Okay.
so you get a nice slow dry heat.
Okay.
So every great pasta dish, ragu, needs a pasta, right?
Yes.
And you, I hear, know how to make pasta.
I do.
Would you care to share that with us?
I would love to. So I'm gonna make just a traditional homemade eggs, flour, and water dough, which you can use for ravioli, you can use anything. So what I usually do is the cups of flour to egg ratio,
Okay.
and then add the water as needed.
So 1 cup of flour, 1 egg.
1 cup of flour, 1 egg. So let's do 2 because
right.
I'm really hungry.
Yeah?
So I feel like I would have, we're gonna wanna try this. So we're gonna do 2. So you're just gonna put it right on your work surface, your clean work surface. So I'm doing 2 cups of flour.
So you're doing the old-fashioned well method.
Yeah, I call it a volcano,
Okay.
but yes, I am doing that. So 2 cups of flour. We're then going to make a hole in the middle here.
Now, what kind of flour are you using? Is this all-purpose flour?
It is called pasta caputo flour. I get
Okay.
it from my local Italian grocery store. And all I'm doing is I just want to incorporate some of the flour in with the egg.
Okay.
And it's a little touchy because you have this, you don't want to have too much liquid in the middle or it starts to run out. So you're just going to start to incorporate it all.
Right.
So we're taking the flour and smushing it between our fingers to make this dough.
Your hands are the best tools in the kitchen.
Now this is already starting to get together. The missing ingredient is the water. And like I said, it depends on humidity and things like that. And the water is gonna really give you the dough that you want. So I never really put more than like a 3/4 of a cup of water in it, and I just add it little by little because you have to add more flour if you overwater. So you can see how it's really forming, like it feels like really soft under my fingers. And every once in a while you just wanna, I say it looks like monsters, like when it all sticks.
Right.
You wanna clean off the monsters. My kids help and they think that's really funny. You want it to be pretty much this consistency then when you're done, nice and smooth. Cut off a chunk about this big.
Golf ball size?
Golf ball, maybe a tennis ball.
Tennis ball.
Yeah, tennis ball size. So we're gonna cut that apart. You want to get flour and flour your pasta machine. Now, if you don't have one of these, you have to grab one, even at, you know, anywhere. Like you don't have to go to necessarily an Italian market. Everyone makes pretty inexpensive pasta machines right now. So we're gonna take our dough, flour it up a little bit, because otherwise it'll get stuck in there. Your pasta machine's numbered, so you wanna start it at the biggest size, thickness. We're gonna put this through the first time. Go. I love the sounds of it, I love the smells of it, because everything reminds me of my childhood. David, do you make homemade pasta with one of these machines, or do you use the more technical approach?
No, when I'm making it at home, I definitely just utilize that machine I got from my grandfather.
There you go.
Grew up making ravioli with him.
Yeah. So all we're gonna do is let it go through from the biggest number to the smallest number. So we're gonna flour it up, both sides.
Both sides.
Go. So we're just gonna square it off.
And this is creating the length you want for your noodle.
It is, and you know what I did the other day, which I'm gonna do here, because I'm a little bit OCD, is just make it a little bit straight on the one side, so we're actually gonna get the rectangles.
But since this is homemade
It is
pasta,
homemade, they're all gonna be different,
utilize
oh my
this.
goodness. They're all gonna be different, yeah. I'm not that crazy, huh? Well, don't ask him that. Okay.
So pappardelle is a nice wide noodle.
Nice wide noodle. So here we go. We have a little extra. Perfect. So here we have our pasta dryer, which my brother actually made in Cub Scouts. So we're just gonna put this on here to dry. And the reason you wanna dry the pasta is so when you put it in the water, it doesn't just all go bleh. So while the pasta's drying, let's finish up this ragu.
Yes. So what we want to do is work with the scote, right? We just
Okay.
pulled them out of the oven.
Okay.
It was in there for about an hour, hour and a half,
Okay.
getting nice and tender, cooked through. So what you want
Right.
to do is pull the meat
Okay.
and all your goodies. We have thyme, bay leaves, a cinnamon stick. We want to get all of that out.
Okay.
And we're going to leave our braising liquid in the pan. Now with goat meat, you always get bones. So before we add the meat back into the braising liquid, we want to remove the bones.
Okay.
You don't want to eat those.
So let it cool off a minute.
Let it cool
Okay.
off. And then we're going to take 2 tablespoons of our tomato paste.
Okay.
So we're going to want to kind of mix that into this braising liquid, kind of break it down. Tomatoes in. This is just a can of whole peeled tomatoes. You can use crushed tomatoes, you could use a tomato sauce. I really like the texture that the whole tomato brings, and just break it up a little bit.
Because we like a nice San Marzano, I feel like whenever we make anything with sauce, we kind of try to use the San Marzano.
Exactly.
You don't have to add the sweetness. It already has that sweet.
That's
Tomato.
what's beautiful about San Marzano.
Yes.
Chicken stock.
Okay. And what's this gonna do? Just layer the flavor?
Yeah, it's a neutral, add depth of flavor. It's a neutral broth. That's why you don't want to use a fish stock or a beef or something like that with a more pronounced flavor.
Yes.
And then all you're going to do is take your meat and remove it from the bone. And some of it's stuck on with a little connective tissue. You want to be careful you don't get that into your... So now that the meat and everything else is in the saucepan, we're going to let it simmer on the stovetop for about an hour to an hour and a half.
Oh, good.
Just to infuse all the flavors, to reduce the liquid, and also to soften up the meat a little bit.
Thicken it, so
Yes.
it's that sauce consistency.
Yes.
Perfect.
So while this cooks, let's finish the short ribs. So I took them out of the oven. They were in there for 4 hours braising. I took the short ribs out of the liquid. I took all of the extra vegetable out of the liquid, and we're left with this. This is the braising liquid. Okay. I haven't reduced it anymore. This is exactly how it will come out after 4 hours cooking. So
I see chocolate, and that's all I see.
We're gonna finish the chocolate and butter into the braising liquid.
Wow.
And that just, what that does is add richness. It's not gonna taste like chocolate. It's just gonna,
add it in.
It'll add richness and smoothness to it, and a depth of flavor. It's a dark chocolate. You do not want to use milk chocolate.
Okay.
So that's your sauce. Now let's plate.
So here we have our bourbon nut braised short ribs and our goat ragu pappardelle. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. Thank you so much to Strip District Meats for this awesome meat, and stop in and try something new.
And always remember to subscribe and share with your friends.
Let's dig in.